Hey folks, welcome to Build at Home. I'm Ricky Camilleri. I'm joined right now by the fantastic, the amazing Cameron Esposito. So nice of you to join me. She's the author of the new book, Save Yourself, which is a sort of hilarious and harrowing story of growing up. Cameron Esposito. Thanks so much for being here, Cameron. Good to see you
It's
under
good
these
to see you too.
circumstances.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Before we get started, I just want to say that 168 million, that's the number of meals that school kids in need have missed due to closures in the past few weeks. No Kid Hungry is helping schools and community groups find new ways to feed kids every day. Check out nokidhungry.org to see how you can also help. On that note, Cameron, let's talk about let's Save Yourself, which is a pretty appropriate title, I think, for the time that we're living in, maybe.
Yeah, whoopsie daisy, I accidentally have the world's most apropos book title. I mean, how that could even happen. Plus, like, it's like even a very. Do you see the cover? Do you see what the cover looks like?
You look like the last comedian left in a post-apocalyptic world.
That's exactly right.
How are you holding up right now? Like, what are you doing to keep yourself calm, I guess, in the midst of this?
Yeah, that's such a great question. One thing I've been doing is having virtual book tour events on Zoom. So I had one the other night with Roxane Gay and Carmen Maria Machado, who are New York Times, massive best-selling authors. And tonight I've got one with Tegan Quinn is one of my guests.
Oh, cool.
Who's half of the band Tegan and Sarah, and also a memoirist herself. So for me, something that helps me with times of stress is to go into like a planning / work mode.
Me too.
But my job doesn't really exist right now. My traditional job of being a stand-up comic. I should have been on book tour this week and been in New York. And something that I'm in such a privileged position to have this job where I very regularly interact with hundreds or thousands of people. And so I've been having these virtual events on Zoom because then the audience members, you can also scroll and see everybody's cameras that wants to activate that, and they can raise their hand digitally and you can call on them. So it's been this really nice way of having something that feels akin to the community that I would usually be with this time of year.
Have you outside of Zoom, have you thought about doing any? I happened to watch last night a stand-up show on Twitch with like all of the comedians were doing their sets via webcam, and they were actually dropping in laugh tracks.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
At the very least, make it feel like an audience. And I absolutely joined to support them. It was a bunch of comedians that I love, but I also was like, oh, this is like not the format for this, but this is amazing that everyone's doing what they can right now.
Yeah, I think as soon as the book tour is supposed to last through this week, and so I've been sort of trying to replicate that also because indie booksellers were involved, and I feel like I'm in the position of being able to spotlight who's still shipping and perhaps get some money in the door for some booksellers that really could suffer so much that they go away during this process. So are you in NYC right now?
Yep.
So Books Are Magic was my New York partner. I know that it's also the epicenter of the outbreak and that there's a million things to think about, but I consider myself a small business person, so I think about small business at this time.
Absolutely.
And so Books Are Magic was a great partner, and I'm hoping to work to create avenues for people to remember ways that they can support. To answer your other question about stand-up, I think after I'm on the other side of the book tour, that's definitely what I'd like to do. I actually would like to do a full special live.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and because it just hasn't happened yet, and I know it will happen. Or actually, for stand-up, it's a little different than like a musician, because a musician, you can play their songs again and again at home and then go see them in concert, and that's the fulfillment of the experience, is to see the thing you already know. But for stand-up, the element of surprise of the joke is really important. So it's an interesting time because going on, Twitch, and we call it burning material, and burning material is just a different way than we've ever operated as comics.
Right. And you call it burning material because it's not in front of an audience. It's not as you would normally present it.
No, like burning material is any time that you, so like if you do it on TV for a late night set,
Oh,
or if you do it and put it out as an album, then you
right.
can't also release it as a special because we rely on some part of laughter is the surprise
Right. I got you.
when you recognize what somebody's saying. So like stand up is all about recognition of feelings and experiences.
Hmm. So let's talk about Save Yourself. I mean, the book, not the how people are going to save themselves in the incoming apocalypse. The book, which I thought was extremely beautiful and was kind of harrowing. I was not expecting you to go as personal and as deep as you did, especially your childhood. I have this strange thing, just very tangential, and then I'll get to a question. These webcam things allow me to, for some reason, feel like people care about me, which is not true. But there's this like weird feeling that I have sometimes where I was reading it and like completely different experience than my life as a straight cis white man. But I was kind of like, I remembered all these moments where somebody in school or in sports pointed something out about me that was like, oh, you're right, I'm a fraud. Like I have to live with this part of me for now because you decided to point that out. And I feel like you captured that so well in one of the moments where someone called you fat, I think, in your when you were in like sixth grade. And you captured that inner feeling so well of being like, everybody knows this part about me now that I was trying to hide for so long. I thought that was really, really beautiful. What was it like writing about that and thinking about that? Because it's not necessarily telling jokes about it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I will say I care about you. I mean, that's
Oh,
why I do
thanks,
this
Cameron.
job is to connect with other people. And so I'm so glad that you told me how it affected you personally. That really matters to me. And I do think that there is an access point for anybody. For queer folks, you know, it might be some identical experiences, but the feelings are universal. As a
Yeah.
kid, I felt so much shame because I did not match expectations for my gender. And I also felt a lot of shame because I had crossed eyes. I had a bowl cut. I had glasses that I wore on top of an eye patch to help with my crossed eyes. Like I was a goony looking child. And I also was routinely made fun of for being chubby or fat. And I just have carried that with me for my whole life. You know, that doesn't go away, that feeling of shame. And writing this book was a very interesting experience because I got to see that kid again. You know, I looked at a lot of photos, but I also tried to remember what that was like. And in re-meeting myself, I had so much more compassion and such a different experience encountering this kid that I was. You know, because if I met that kid and that wasn't me, I would think that kid was awesome because they
Oh,
were out there in the world with an eye patch and glasses and braces playing sports and trying, you know, they were still
yeah.
trying to have friends and relate to people. And so I think I didn't know that really about myself. Like I just thought that yeah, that something was wrong with me. And to like meet that kid again and go, oh my God, I like love her. You know, that was a transformation.
Did you find that looking at all of these moments or writing about all of these moments from your childhood gave you new perspective on decisions that you make or mistakes that you make as an adult? Like, oh, yeah, of course I did that last week or a year ago. That clearly comes from this insecurity that developed over the course of being like 7 years old or 12 years old or something.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody does starts a career in stand-up comedy that feels understood. Like that's just not a thing. So you know, first of all, I see that and these are good things. You know, humor is a coping mechanism. I love my job. So some of the ways that I was shaped and the reactions that I had, not even knowing where they came from, doesn't necessarily mean that they were negative. So, you know, I go on stage and I try to prove myself to people. Well, you know, shit. Like, I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah.
I think also one thing that I've realized is that, you know, to go into the entertainment industry and, you know, worry so much about your aesthetic, you know, worry about how my hair looks or what my clothes look like, definitely has roots in feeling like I was really wrong. Like something was really wrong with me because I couldn't be traditionally feminine. And what I have realized in writing this book is that I get to give myself that permission now, to maybe not always look perfect, to maybe not always be talking about my life as if it is perfect. Because I think to counteract all these things that happened in my youth, I was trying to manage other people's perception of me in a way that I just don't know is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that you kind of talk about very early on in the book too. A moment that I think was you were at Bonnaroo, and you were so adamant about keeping your leather jacket on that you suffered heat stroke. And I
Yes.
thought that was, so. I mean, that's so clearly what I think you're talking about a little bit, which is like developing a very uniform aesthetic that can sort of present the idea of yourself to people that you want to present. So there's almost no way that they can come at you with what you've received before.
Exactly. I mean, I want so much to be a tough guy. I
Oh, me
want
too.
so
Oh my
much,
God, me too.
right? I want so much to be somebody that, that men don't intimidate on the street or that people don't make fun of. I want so much for you to look at me and think like, wow, that is a cool person, like, and um, I just, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm so earnest and sincere, and I am so emotional, and that's good, and I'm trying to relax into who I am a little bit more.
Hmm. Did you find that working on Save Yourself helped you do that, or is that something that you have been able to do over the years? Mainly, you figured that out. Really? Does anyone ever figure that out?
I don't know if anybody ever figures it out. I think part of it is age, which is
Right.
awesome. That's like one of the positive parts about getting older. And part of it, I think, is also a massive part of it was working on this book. I put childhood photos of myself up on my fridge and I look at them every day. I would really recommend that to anybody, and not like your cutest photo, like your
Yeah.
worst photo. And so that has been a part of the practice. I also think a part of the practice is and this isn't in the book, but I went through a divorce this year.
Mm.
And, to have something that was publicly challenging, I'm already a public person when this is happening, and nobody thinks that's amazing to go through. I just had to be a little bit more honest about where my life was at. And that has not been, that experience was tough, but being a more fully realized person has been really positive.
Yeah, I was, you kind of reference the divorce in the book in the sense that you say that you're not going to talk about it in the book. But I'm curious. I don't want to get into any details about it, but as someone who also recently went through basically a divorce this past year, how are you handling the quarantine post divorce?
Oh, that's a very specific question. Yeah, it's not in the book because it was ongoing as I was
Yeah.
writing the book, and I had to just make a decision to not rush things because I wanted to make sure to protect myself and to
Of course.
protect everyone else involved. Somebody told me that a friend of mine was reminding me that the equation is tragedy plus time equals comedy, not tragedy equals comedy, as I was trying to like force the funny out of one of the worst things that's ever gone on in my life. And in terms of how I'm handling the quarantine, I am dating somebody.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and we actually live together. So that has been, it's been a really interesting part of this time, actually. I've been sort of sharing about this publicly because, with her permission, because I feel like it's also a topic that would be helpful to hear about. Like, I live with somebody who's immunosuppressed. So even before I made the decision to cancel my book tour, ahead of when everything was being canceled, which is also very funny because I can feel very much like the world is on my shoulders. So I was like, I think I have to cancel this book tour to protect people. And then like, it turns out actually just like the whole world has stopped. Like it wasn't really my decision to make. But I did cancel it in advance because, even though we're young people, my direct household could be very, very differently impacted than sort of the thing that you're hearing everybody say, which is that we're all in it together and it's not going to affect younger people. and everybody's going to experience this the same way. People are not going to experience this the same way, you know?
Yeah.
People that have salaried jobs are not going to experience this the same way.
Nope.
People who work in the gig economy are, you know, I work in the gig economy. People that are in perfect health, like myself, are not going to experience this the same way somebody who has underlying health conditions would.
But you're also, as you said, like you would have been on a book tour, or even if you were doing a stand-up tour, which I'm sure you regularly are, whether or not you're developing a special or not, that's how you make money. Like if you live with someone with immunity issues, you can't do that because you
Well,
could
you
catch it.
can.
You're around an audience all the time.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I'm very cautious always. I've wash my hands and wear a mask to fly. Those types of things. But this is a new frontier because nobody has any underlying immunity. That's why this felt different. And by the way, for the queer community, you know, because we have a higher incidence of HIV and AIDS in our larger family, this will differently impact members of the queer community already. So that's something else I was thinking of as I made the decision. I mean, what seems so wild about right now is that we're essentially all acting autonomously as if we are, you know, public health ministers. I mean, that's what's so strange, you know, because we don't have great national leadership. It really does seem to be falling on governors, mayors, and then like me, a stand-up comic, is trying to make decisions about other people's health. And this is an unprecedented experience for that reason too.
How have you felt? I mean, I've been losing my mind the past day and a half watching the news and watching, you know, our national leadership, if you could call it that, say that, you know, we should be getting back to work within a week or two, that like we may lose people, but the economy has to start up again. I don't think I've ever felt more like personally attacked by the government of this country than them saying that, like, some are gonna die. We got to go back to work.
Well, it also, to have a president who financially will benefit from that specific directive is also in my mind, when I think about somebody who wants to be president, it's not unlike somebody who wants to be a comic. Something happened earlier in your life and you need to feel powerful, you know? And so like for anybody who runs for political office, that's probably true. But this person who currently is running the country, it's not necessarily about power. It's about power as it directly relates to his bank account while he is in office. And so that to me, it's like, I am, you know, a comic who's just about to go out on tour. That is when you are at your lowest financially, because we save up markets to be able to go on tour and make all our money up at once. So like I am financially at risk in this time. And I do not think we should be going back to do my job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd imagine, as someone who, like, as you said, lives with a person with immunity issues, that what that must feel like for them and for you to hear him say that the past day or two.
Yeah, it's super scary. I mean, I guess it is, I think what feels helpful about right now, by the way, this siren, it just feels so of the moment.
I live 2 blocks from a hospital.
Oh, do you? So are you hearing that constantly?
Nonstop.
Wow. I think that what feels in some way helpful about right now is that we are making a lot of the same choices just as a country. And I think that relaxing things from a national, I just really hope that doesn't happen, because I don't trust individuals to make the right choice for everyone else around them. Like, that's not how we operate as people. We're, especially Americans, we are steeped in a feeling of individuality and taking what we want and bootstrapping and all that. So I really hope that it doesn't happen, because I think it would create discord in our communities in a way we aren't currently seeing.
Complete chaos.
Complete chaos. Yes.
Back to
yes.
Complete chaos. we're like, we're only not there because a lot of us are inside right now. Like if we went back outside, chaos.
Well, and we're also only not there because the rules are the same for everyone. So that's
Yeah.
the effects aren't the same, but right now the rules are the same, and that is helping us. So please keep the rules the same.
Stay inside. Stay inside, everybody. Going back to Save Yourself. You know, what was is an incredibly personal book. What was the hardest part of the book to write?
The hardest part of the book to write was I talk about my sexual assault in college in this book, which is also something that I've talked about as a comic in a special that I made that was called Rape Jokes. And when you approach things as that special, which I released as a fundraiser for rape crisis intervention, it raised a ton of money, like $100,000, and it's available for free on my website. You can watch it. It's still stand up. Like it's raw and personal, but it's still stand up, and jokes give us some distance. That's just like part of joking around about something, is to put it as an object over here so that we can laugh about it.
That's what Hannah Gadsby talks about in her that was like her big revelation in her special, was that like jokes for so long kept her distant from the actual tragedy and aggressions that she had experienced in her life. Sorry, that's what you reminded me of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what's different in a book, and then what I found even more challenging was the audiobook of that particular story. What's different in a book is that, you know, this is a very funny book, and also it's the full story on the page without the relief for me as a writer of being able to, you know, take some of the wind out of it. And sometimes humor should be toned down, and we should talk about things in a real way. But it also is a skill to be able to manipulate our own experiences so that they're more digestible for us. Like that's how we live. That's how we continue to survive. So I think for me, writing about that in a more, you know, just like a literary way, and then having to read the audiobook, because you do it all in these long sessions, it was really challenging.
When did you come to the place knowing that you were going to write about it without jokes, that you weren't, because there are jokes in the book, as you said, it is a funny book, and sometimes you are talking about an embarrassing moment in your life and you're inserting jokes, but what made you decide that that story was going to be told sort of without the usual sort of like little bits here and there within it?
I guess it just naturally evolved that way. I mean, that's just how it came out. I also think that not including it wasn't really an option because it's such a part of how I still interact with men. And it's such a part of how I still try to trust people in the world. And, you know, that's true for a lot of, I mean, that's really my experience of working in memoir, is that you go back through your life, there are these big moments that just have to be included. And for me, that was one of them.
What were some of the other big moments that had to be included?
First kiss, with my first kiss with a woman, which was incredible. And then also the first time I had sex with a woman is in here. And the first time I lived with a partner. And
is that the dancer that you talk about at the beginning? Yeah. Is it the first person? Yeah.
Yeah.
The first big X.
Yeah. It's actually kind of amazing too, because my first girlfriend and then the first person I lived with, I'm queer, so I'm in touch with both of those people. And
wait, what does that mean? I'm straight. I'm in touch with all my exes.
Oh, are you? I think that's really unusual. I don't know. I'm not a straight person. I'm just coming at this from external judgment. Is that, do you know, are your friends?
I don't know. I guess it is unusual. I can't, with some distance and some time, I can't not be like, hey, how are you? We were together. We were like best friends for 5 years. It's fucking weird to not check in every now and then, especially right now.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, I think in the queer community, there are a few added details. Like number one, there's only like 8 of us. So like you can't not be in touch with your exes because you're just going to see them at every event. That's part of it. And then also like a lot of times we've dated each other's exes. Like it's just, there's so many different points of intersection. And
Right.
so I think that it's not just about like opting in to being around your exes. It's like, oh, you're gonna know them.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think I'm
um,
like a no person left behind kind of thing in my
it's
life.
like it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
So I did get to send some manuscripts to those people, to those exes of mine, and have them read them, which was also really a wild experience that I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people get to have that experience, because my first girlfriend, I talk in the book about cheating on her, and
Mm.
you know, the reasons that I did that, and it's something I've apologized to her before, but she and I got to have another conversation where she said, you know, like, I read how you wrote about this in the book, and you know, I really appreciated it, and I appreciated going through these experiences with you. And I, you know, have continued to grow, and you've continued to grow, and isn't it amazing we had this time together? And that's wild. Like, to receive that from somebody, for me, that was one of the things in my life I had felt the worst about, and to sort of get this information that was like, actually, we're cool. Nobody gets that. That's not a thing.
And that, my friend, is why you stay in touch with exes.
That's right.
For that one moment where they go, no, we're cool, man. Don't
We're
worry.
actually cool.
Oh,
yeah,
we are? Oh, thank God. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Cameron, it has been amazing talking to you. I'm so happy that you're holding up, that you're doing well, that you and your partner are living and comfortable and happy at home, and maybe enjoying the quarantine a little bit, or at the very least still busy and working through it.
I'm trying to work, and I'm trying to take dance breaks. Dance breaks are very important right now.
Oh yeah. Do you dance to like a video, or do you just put music on and dance for yourself?
That's a great question. I've done both.
Okay.
One thing that's really amazing is that there are so many streaming options right now for different, like, fitness studios or whatever. There's this really awesome dance class that takes place here in LA down the street, but that also started in Seattle. It's called Dance Church. That's just a plug for Dance Church. I've been doing it. But like, they're not paying me any money. I just tuned in, and I've been doing Dance Church, which has been really fun. So just stuff like that. Keep your body moving. That's what I'm trying to do too.
Same. The book is called Save Yourself. It's available now. What is the best way that you would like people to buy Save Yourself?
Well, so this is great. It's a choose your own adventure. You know, I'll hold it next to me. So you could buy it on, you know, Amazon, if that seems like for you, that's how you want things delivered to your house. It's really quick shipping right now. On Amazon, it's not being delayed, but you could also buy it on Audible, or as an ebook on Apple Books. Like, it's available everywhere. But what I'm really trying to tell people is like, hey, if you don't want things to be coming into your house because you're feeling, you know, nervous, get it as an audiobook, get it as an ebook. And the biggest thing I would say is, if you live in a town with an indie bookstore that you love, most of them are still shipping. So your indie bookstore would be the best place to get it. So I live in LA, my indie bookstore is Skylight Books. So if you live in LA, order from Skylight Books and help keep our indie businesses afloat.
I love Skylight Books. Hold on a second. Skylight Books.
Yeah,
you can see it. Yeah,
the best. Yeah,
it's a great bookstore.
The best bookstore.
Cameron, thank you so much for talking to me. Good to see you.
Yeah, it was a total pleasure. I hope you take care of yourself, and thanks.
Same to you. Thanks a lot.
Bye.